B2A Solutions is your trusted IT consulting company located in the heart of Europe. We design, build, and maintain scalable and user-friendly solutions tailored to your needs. Want to join a team that is shaping the future of the JavaScript ecosystem in Belgium? A team involved in the community by organizing events and contributing to open source? Join B2A Solutions now.
Oh, they always cut it at the best part. Okay, so this took us like an hour to do, and they were going to do a Zoom call to each other just to, like, don't even go there. This is what tech people do. So if it doesn't work, it works, but we are showing some stuff here, which is cool. We've got three very, very intelligent, good-looking people here on the stage who are going to tell us some very cool stuff about TC39. This is a panel discussion, and it's not on Zoom, and I managed to not have them do a panel discussion live with Zoom, thank God. That means that we're going to chat, and you are in the audience. Sorry, people at home, you're going to have to write questions and do it the old way, but I have the phone with me, and I'll be reading your questions and asking them, so do ask questions. People in the audience, just put your hand up like you would do, like click that Zoom button, but you can actually put your physical hand up, and I will actually chuck this at you, and you can interrupt them, right? So if you're bored, you can change the subject. It's in your power, money mess. But yes, feel free to just ask the question, because that's what it's here for, right? Am I right, guys? Yes? Excellent, thank you. So I'm not going to introduce them, because they're going to introduce themselves, because they are amazing people, and they get to do it themselves, which is always nice. So who wants to go first?
Okay.
Cool, off you go.
Hello, hi everyone. Really happy to be here. I'm Romulo. I work, we are kind of twins and work at the same company, but I work mostly on JavaScript things. And yeah, I love the web. I normally do stuff on internationalization part on ECMA 402. Also, I'm a delegate on TC39 that are the folks that are kind of designing the language. Looks like not, but I love sports and music. And yeah, I love the web in general and do things with web.
Thank you. Hello, again. If you hadn't had enough of me, I work at Igalia. I joined Igalia, fun fact, as a compiler's person. I had no experience in standards or anything, unlike Romulo. But I ended up here, and now I do TC39 stuff full time. Also, one of the co-chairs. So there's three of us, but yeah. So I do TC39 stuff, and it'll be nice to have this conversation. Thank you.
So hi everyone, I'm Nicolo. I'm mostly known because I'm one of the maintainers of Babel. We already heard about that. Thank you. And I'm also contributing to TC39 to different proposals. I'm an invited expert, and I'm now working on. I've been working on different proposals for a few years.
Cool. So you're going to first of all tell some of the people out there who do not know what TC39 is, because hands up who doesn't know what it is. Okay, oh my gosh, you've got a hard job to do.
Should I start or our chairperson?
So okay, TC39. I really like this name because it really explains everything, right? TC39 is well, if you look at the name, it's the 39 technical committee of what? So years ago, a bunch of people in Europe decided that they want to build computers. And they want to build computers together. So they started what is now known as ECMA, European Computers Manufacturers Association. This is why sometimes you hear JavaScript called ECMAScript, because that's literally what it's legally named. And these people build different kinds of standards, things like, well, vaccine passports, but also JavaScript for some reason. So TC39 is one of the committees of this body, and it's a big group of people who work on browsers like Google and Apple, people like him who are invited experts and sort of influential figures in the community, and well, people like us who are just there to add more features and more interesting things to the language we all love, hopefully.
Yeah, that's fair, that's fair. Was a good explanation.
Thank you.
Well, let's get started about maybe the proposals we are working with, if nobody has any question. Should I start, or it's clear the definition of TC39 and ECMA, because ECMA is kind of the institution that do the uniformization of the different proposals or specs, and TC39 is the technical committee that works on that. Should I start with my proposal, or a proposal I've been working and championing? It's a proposal called Types as a Comments that now called type annotations. I don't know how many TypeScript fans we have here. Oh, wow. There. Okay, okay. Let's change subject.
It's not controversial at all. Everybody loves this proposal, right?
Well, this proposal has the main goal of bringing the types to a space for types in the language. It's not bringing TypeScript to the language. It's bringing the space to write types, and those types be valid JavaScript. This is the main intention. We are on stage 1 because, as far as you know, all the standardization process works in stages, starting stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, till the things go to the browser and go to the specification. And we are at stage 1. That is a stage where we are thinking, designing, asking people like you, or people internally, how they feel about this proposal. And our intention is to bring, or to have kind of a subset of TypeScript or Flow or Eggle or any other type system that might work on the browser without compromising anything like runtime features or performance. And the idea is just ignore those types. And yeah, it's basically that.
Easy.
People are happy about, oh, we have one
Lovely.
question.
Okay, this is going to be cool. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm really bad at like throwing things.
Hello.
Hello.
So, as you mentioned, this proposal is like not controversial at all.
Why?
I'm wondering, because I don't see what the controversy would be about, so I'm wondering what like the biggest,
Well,
no, not proponents, the opposite of proponents, againsters.
Haters.
Like,
Well,
Yes.
we have a bunch of people that don't like types. And we can start for those folks that don't like types because they don't like, and they don't want to bring types to the JavaScript. There are other folks that they want types, or they want types differently, or in a different way, or they just feel that could compromise the future of the language at all. Other folks are happy with actual ecosystem of the tools we have to bring types or to work with types in the JavaScript land. But we are trying to give more ergonomics to the developers. We are trying to kind of reduce the build steps you have to compile to JS from example TypeScript, and you can easily go with your TS content or the content inside of TS file and just put on console of your browser and run it without having to strip the types or do any kind of extra work.
then, if I'm allowed to ask a
Oh,
follow-up
go for
question. So, in what way does this like go against or take inspiration from something like JSDoc? Because JSDocs has been around for a long time, at least for my time as a developer. And it seems like something similar but different enough. So like, is it taking the good parts, or is it taking, a different approach?
Well, I will answer with the question for all of you. How many of you use JSDocs and are kind of aware of how to document perfectly, correctly a JSDoc function with JSDoc?
1 person. 1.5.
Well,
All right, question answered.
the thing, no, I'm not saying that JSDoc is not good enough. I'm just saying that are kind of different things, and having the ability of looking for types inside the JSDoc, something that TypeScript does and does really well, was an alternative to bring types to the JavaScript ecosystem without implementing it. But it was a middle term thing that sometimes is not such, doesn't have the same ergonomics. That example, when you write a function using the types a la TypeScript syntax, we believe that we are solving a similar issue, but in a different way, and we think that is a little bit more proper way of solving it, as far as we hear from the community, and people are using TypeScript that are millions and millions. Yeah.
And also, Flow has a different approach to types in comments, which is way more like small than JS docs, but still people compile Flow rather than using comments, and this like shows us that people do not want to use real comments for types. They want something like the smallest syntax possible, where you just have like to put the colon in the function parameters.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
So, you're using, these are basically ad hoc comments, let's say, from what I understand. Is this a optional kind of feature? Because otherwise it might as well use a typed language.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'm a Java developer, so this looks like a good idea to me. And I understand all about compilation time and introspection and debugging usefulness, but it's not typing JavaScript, it's just a feature on top.
Yeah, you already answered it. It's completely optional. We are giving this to developers, this extra ergonomic to developers, because if you don't make it optional, we will probably break the web.
Yeah.
and we don't want to do this, and I don't want to
Definitely
be.
not want to break the web.
I couldn't walk normally on on the street if I do something like that. Yeah.
And would the types be extensible? Like people would create their own, I mean, that's what they do with TypeScript.
Yes. You can
In addition
declare
to the natives
the types.
Also, the interesting part is that this proposal only gives you the syntax, not of the types, but of the comment, right? And this comment space essentially can be filled by anything. So it could be something very different from how TypeScript people write types, you know, or it could be maybe lifetime. You know, you could have lifetime, like in Rust.
Don't scare them. Well, we don't know. We are in stage 1. Actually, we don't have a well-defined syntax. We have some tentative syntax or grammar. But yeah, we are open to listen and open to make most unified and the less kind of friction between all type users or all type checker users in the future. But yeah, we are open to.
Okay.
Not playing
We have
favorites.
some questions over here. Do you want to do a big, massive throw? Go on.
And yeah, maybe we.
That was better than me. Oh, well done, well done.
Okay, so you were mentioning you were in stage 1. Can you tell a bit more about the process and like, if I really like it, when can I expect it? And also about the validation.
Oh, okay. First, maybe I could explain the stages. So everything, every big enough change in JavaScript happens in these stages. So there's very tiny changes, but then everything substantial needs to happen through a proposal, right? And each proposal starts at stage 0, at which point it's just an idea. It could be in a doc online, it could be on a napkin, scribbled, but it's all stage 0. It's all ideas. Stage 1 is when it is essentially adopted by the committee. So you go to the committee, to TC39, and you present it, and people say, okay, we'll think about it. And that's essentially stage 1. That's where types as comments is. So there is no guarantee that it will happen. It's just the committee saying, okay, let's spend some time on this, right? Once you start getting real, it gets to stage 2, when people say, okay, now let's talk about very specific things. Now let's talk about how will the syntax look. Will we use a octothorpe or a ampersand or whatever, like for syntax things, right? And if we have an API, like how would it look? How would it actually behave? After that, you go to stage 3, at which you say, okay, we've done all the thinking that we could, sitting on a chair.
Just one thing on stage 2,
Yeah.
that is when you start writing the spec text.
Yes.
That is the kind of recipe for implementers to build that feature on the browser.
So you are starting to answer these very specific questions and writing things down, but the point is that this could take any amount of time. Like for decorators, this took more than 10 years. So, because people do not agree about these specific details. People agree, okay, we can do this. But about like very specific things, people are like, oh no. And once you actually figure out all these small things, it goes to stage 3, at which point browsers start working on it and shipping it, hopefully. And we say, okay, now we need to ask people, like, how do you use this? How do you, feel about this? Than just like, a bunch of people in the room. And then when everything is settled and we're like, okay, this is added to the web, this is all good, we formally add it to the specification. So it's stage 4 means it's added to the JavaScript spec, which means that if anybody is not implementing this, then they're not compliant. That's not, yeah.
We have another question here.
Hi, one more question. There was an example just on the previous picture, I think, where you have let X number, string, and then you can reassign it to the number. Is it safe enough? Because like that you can actually, you are expecting it to be a string and then later you reassign to a number, you may not notice that.
This is one of the also potential concerns that people has, that final users, people that use JavaScript, might think that just by having this, they are safe about using types in JavaScript. But yeah, the thing is, those types are completely ignored by the engine itself, or by browser. It means that you have to use a type checker, or TypeScript, or Flow, or any other tool that will give you the power to just give you a throw or show you that you are doing something wrong, because JavaScript won't do that for you. It's just a safe space to write a piece of type, but you can do anything you want as you are doing right now. There is no runtime checks or even the capability of doing that. And at this point, we are not thinking also about adding runtime checks, at least on this proposal. Might come in future or near future.
Don't start controversy.
I don't want to start controversial talk, but might be in a different proposal. This one focus on just type as a comments. Type annotations now. They changed the name last minute.
The types are not real. They're just a part of our collective imaginations.
So basically, it's not like a competitor to the TypeScript.
No.
It's
Complementary.
complement.
The idea is that TypeScript or Flow or whatever takes your now valid JavaScript code and verifies as it already does, verifies the types. You just do not have to compile it away. So for example, if you have a TypeScript file, you can copy and paste that in Node.js or in a browser and it just works. So this greatly improves the learning and development experience.
Yeah. I feel the biggest value add of this for me is that it turns TypeScript from a tool that you use, like a compiler tool, to a developer sort of IDE tool, right? So it just exists in your text editor, and it can show you, okay, this is wrong, but you don't have to actually call it manually any time because you can just run that code.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Maybe we just accept one more question and
Yes.
go through other proposals. Yeah.
I'll do a good segue to the next. I don't know what next is, but I'll do a segue to the committee. This proposal seems very similar to a proposal that was implemented with Python 3.0, I think. I think
Yes.
Python also has type comments, and it looks very similar.
Yes.
Yeah.
How would the committee go about making sure we don't do the same mistakes that Python did? I don't know if they made mistakes, but I'm sure there were some. Like, how do we work with other language people?
Well, normally, I think that most of the features we have across different languages are inspired by each other. Yeah? In this case, a specific case, you know, one of the champions is Daniel from the TypeScript, and the Python is working also. They are co-workers, and they chatted a little bit about that. But anyway, this is an extra thing. We are not trying to repeat any mistakes from any other languages. We're trying to bring the things we feel that are potential useful for the end users, and trying to build in the best way we can, yeah? Without commit any mistakes, or even committing the same mistakes if they are. But
probably going to make the same mistakes. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think for JavaScript, it's worth it. I'm not.
Yeah.
No controversy, but
Yeah. We are stage 1. Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about
do you
more
want to
cool
talk
stuff
about
coming.
Okay, yeah, so we have a list of proposals we can go through, but if you have any question about any other proposal, we can probably try to answer. So the proposal I'm working on is records and tuples. Let me find it. Yes. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Okay. So records and tuples are two new primitive types in JavaScript that gives us immutable data structures, similar to objects and arrays, but they enforce immutability, and they give some guarantees that we can currently have only when using third-party libraries, such as Immutable.js. And also, since records and tuples are way simpler structures than objects and arrays, we can also define how deep equality between them works. So this brings a big feature of functional languages into JavaScript, and this can help in many places, such as it can be useful, for example, in React, where you have the problem of, like if you have two objects that look the same but are actually different objects, it will trigger a render. With records and tuples, this does not happen. Or whenever you are interacting with different like third-party pieces of code that you might not fully trust, you can give them a record, and you know that they cannot do nothing bad with this record. Or in general, it's not just about trust, it's about making sure, like when you have a big application, that you can fully understand how the state changes without side effects and without like accidental or unknown changes that might happen. This proposal is currently in stage 2 of the process, and it's paired to other 2 proposals. One is called change array by copy, which is personally the one I'm most excited about of this group. It brings new array methods. I'm not going to look for an example because I cannot move while I speak. But so you know that we have array.traverse, array.sort, and all those, or array.splice, those methods modify the array. We are bringing in new, let's say, immutable alternatives, which are called toSorted, toReversed, and toSpliced, that create a new array without modifying the original one. We had to introduce these new methods so that they can work on tuples, because, well, obviously, a mutating array method cannot work on tuples, and we wanted to make tuples behave as much as possible as arrays. So if you have any questions about this proposal, I'm happy to answer, while Debbie helps us by bringing back the screen.
It is what it is.
okay.
Does anyone use, does anyone like functional programming with JavaScript?
Well, you said you don't like it anymore. Okay. You like it.
Is anyone already using some immutable libraries, such as Immutable.js or maybe Immer? Good. At least a few people. Nice.
We're back.
Okay. Thanks.
Wow, that was a good catch.
I did my best. Hi, so I'm curious about the new methods that you mentioned. Will they be available as well on arrays and objects, or is it specifically for records?
Yes, so we initially introduced them for tuples. Then we realized that whatever useful for tuples will also be useful for arrays. So we separated them to a new proposal whose goal is only to bring those new methods to arrays. And that proposal is currently at stage 3. As soon as that proposal is finalized, we are then going to merge, like to copy it back for tuples so that tuples and arrays are in sync. But for now, we are like pushing first to add those functions to arrays. Let me see if I can find the proposal quickly.
By the way, I'm not sure there is already an implementation of the change array by copy, at least on GSC.
On GSC, yes,
Yes.
we.
Was our colleague.
Yeah.
And there is also an experimental implementation in SpiderMonkey, which will probably be unflagged in the next month. So this proposal will probably come soon to the browser near you.
Also, V8 people are kind of
Are you
taking
telling
this.
me that Chrome is lagging behind?
Yeah,
Oh, that's sad.
but they are about to start doing.
I never knew that this day would come, but here it is.
If you want to already use this proposal, there are polyfills, so you do not need to wait for browsers to implement them. It's implemented, for example, in Core.js or in ESSheams, and those are like quite small polyfills because they are simple methods.
Very cool.
So,
Okay.
more questions?
Yep.
Oh,
Throw
that's
it.
cheating.
He was afraid. He had to do a massive catch.
Hi. My question is, first, I'm not a properly say JS developer, so be kind. And my question was, what will be the benefits to use tuple instead of an object, for instance?
Okay, so you can, okay, in general, not mutating your objects makes it easier to reason about state. You could already use arrays in a non-mutating way because no one forces you to mutate them. Tuples give you a runtime guarantee that they're not being mutated, and but you could also like have this just using object.freeze on arrays. The other big advantage of tuples is that they guarantee that they're fully, deeply, completely immutable. And also they give you like deep equality. And many people wanted deep equality in JavaScript for a long time. The problem is that defining deep equality on arbitrary objects is impossible. You may ask to two different people and they might have different expectations. Records and tuples can only contain primitives all the way down, so it's way easier to define how deep equality works in this case. It's still not obvious, like there are still we had a lot of discussions about some edge cases, for example, how positive and negative zeros should be compared or how NINs should be compared. But thanks to records and tuples, we are now able to actually bring deep immutability into the language. Well,
Maybe-
deep equality, not deep equality.
Maybe one thing to mention just about the methods, because we cannot use, you don't have methods, or you cannot use methods inside of records and tuples.
Yes, true. So like another difference is that on objects, you can have like functions turn objects. Like if you have a class with some methods, that's just an object. While records and tuples are only, are data-only structures. So if you want to have a function that takes a record and produces a new record, you are not going to put this function directly inside the record. So it's a purely data-only data structure.
I had a question.
You don't have to put your hand up. You're on the panel.
So, what about, so if for some reason it's fine, let's
For
just
some
go.
reason,
I should
we
remember
start
to
crying.
keep touching the screen so that it does not lock. But
So for if for some reason I have a record, right, and I want to store an object somehow, like a reference can work or something, but I want to point to an object from a record.
I mentioned that we have two other proposals paired to this one, but then I only talked about change array by copy. The other proposal is called symbols as with map keys. Why do we need this proposal? Well, first, what is this proposal about? It's about allowing you to put symbols in with map keys, because currently you can only use the objects. Why did we need this proposal? The idea was that since we do not we want records to be deeply mutable, you cannot put an object directly there, but you could store like a reference to an object. And the reference would be marked as a symbol, and then so like you can go from the symbol to the object and from the object back to the symbol using a weak map. That sounds hard. In reality, the ergonomics of this are pretty good. You can you have to think about those two set tables, but with a very small library, you can abstract completely that away, and have, for example, a box function that just takes an object and returns the symbol representation of the objects, and then the other way around. I have an example somewhere. I'm not going to show you because it's too hard to find.
Okay. If we have no more questions, I can talk about my. Okay.
I had a question. Oh, yeah, look at that. Are the immutables actually immutable, or are they what JavaScript likes to do, immutable?
They're actually immutable. I mean, an engine internally could mutate them for some optimizations, but from what you can observe from JavaScript code, they're completely immutable, for real.
Cool.
Exactly like other primitives. Like the idea, so those are a new type of primitives because they're compound. They're built of other primitives. But you can kind of think about them as of strings. Strings contain multiple characters, so are kind of compound primitives, but they're still fully immutable. Mm-hmm. Like you cannot push a character at the end of a string.
So we have this timer thing, and it's beeping and looking at us.
It's
and
saying
kind of like
0, 0.
the stage is going to open up, we're all going to fall down. And Chloe's looking at me going, wrap it up, I'm hungry. So I don't know if we can take more questions, if we can go further in, or do we need to stop, or what do you want?
Let's.
One or two more questions. Okay, so people who are really hungry, just hold on. Okay,
You're
there's
really
two
nice.
over here if you want to throw the box quickly. We'll take those two questions.
Even if you have questions not about the specific proposal in general, about the process, or how to contribute, or about another proposal that you really like, feel free to ask anything.
Or if you want to spend more 5 minutes at least, because we have some thoughts about internationalization API, that also might be nice. Up to you.
Or we could do it in the after party. Is there an after party? We could just talk this. We could just do an after party panel.
Okay.
Wherever I am is the after party.
I'm happy here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a more general question. How, as a standards organization, does it get more difficult to make new standards the more standards there are? You see a pattern of, for example, Spring was Go Java EE, but it's becoming too difficult, so we're going to scale it down, become more simple, but now Spring is as big as Java EE, and I'm sure in the next 5 years, new frameworks will appear that are just the same but scaled down. How do you feel about your organization in that way?
Lunch?
I think so. People realize this in TC39 and starting to realize this faster. This is especially painful for us because we can't break the web, which means that every decision that we take is binding, and we have to live with sort of the sins of the past. Every decision we make, every addition to the language is adding to its footprint, which means that we need to be increasingly conscious about how this grows and at least to some level control it. But at the same time, I think this should not be weaponized against improvements. And if there's something that people want and even need to some extent, this should happen. So maybe a great example for this is Tempro, right? Tempro is a huge proposal. It's bigger than the entire, it's bigger than the entire internationalization library, and that's supposed to be half of JavaScript, right? But it is the need of the hour. It's like the existing date time handling in JavaScript is absolutely terrible, and people who write JavaScript deserve better. So it's justified, and I think as we move forward, we need to be more conscious about where we draw the lines, but definitely not stop growing the language.
And within the committee, we have both people that would like to add many features to the language and people that would prefer to keep the language as small as possible. And we always have to try to find a balance between us so that we know, like when we add a feature, we know that it's really needed because we were able to convince everyone in the committee that it was like something worth adding directly to the language. Often the question, especially for like functions, is why not just publish a package on NPM? Why this needs to be in the language? So being able to answer this question helps, like making sure that we are putting the good things directly in the language.
And it's a consensus-based decisions. This means that everybody should be happy with decisions we are making, or find a solution to do the things in a way that everybody
is complicated. But
happy.
Yeah, just at least consent to things being done.
Yes, like often you have to make some compromises, so many people end up not being happy, but everyone knows that this is the best solution that we could come up with that satisfies every use case as much as possible.
Yeah, the best solution is which makes everybody equally sad. And,
Do you have a page on contributing? I think Simon has a question here. Whoever has, just check it there.
perfect.
Right. Yeah, small end question. If each and every one of you were to change one thing about how JavaScript develops, what thing would it be and why?
Type annotations? No. Well, I battle a lot with all the fetch thing and this. I might do things a little bit differently, or the cancellation things that I think that should deserve or a little bit more attention. There are a few things like the board control and few things that people are working, but I think that those things, we need those things like 5-10 years ago. Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, my answer is probably kind of obvious. I would just delete date. It's terrible. It's and it's not a bit like it was added in 1995, and it was terrible then. You know, like by the time, so it was copied from the Java date, and when they added date, Java was already like, this is terrible. We need to remove this. I have no idea why they copied it. It has been the source of pain and frustration to people for 25 years maybe at this point, and I am really happy that we're doing temporal setting things right.
Has any one of you ever used libraries such as Moment or similar libraries that replace date?
It's the moment to change.
Moment to change, yeah.
Okay, up here is the page that if you ever want to go and contribute, you can click on that link, you can read the guide, you can do that in your own time. Also, we are at an in-person conference, which means these three amazing guys are going to be around in the hall and you can actually chat to them. Don't be afraid, they don't bite, I promise you. And I think they also have Twitter accounts, so you can also follow them and ask and follow up those questions as well. And on Discord, and there's like endless means, so you have no excuses. But it is time for lunch, and first of all, I want you to give a hands up and say a please big thank you to Romulo, Usual, and Nicolo. Me.
And Debbie, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks to Debbie for helping out with this and for connecting everything again every time I forgot to touch the screen.
Don't worry. There's always tech problems, even at an in-person event.
Thank you very much for sharing the projects coming soon to a browser near us, except Internet Explorer, I understood.
B2A Solutions is your trusted IT consulting company located in the heart of Europe. We design, build, and maintain scalable and user-friendly solutions tailored to your needs. Want to join a team that is shaping the future of the JavaScript ecosystem in Belgium? A team involved in the community by organizing events and contributing to open source? Join B2A Solutions now.